Let's look at some subjects before we begin, like the horse. Now, we're not going to draw the horse today because I don't know that subject. I know what a horse looks like. I can probably tell if a horse drawing or painting doesn't look like a horse, but because I don't know that subject well, I certainly can't teach it. Doesn't mean I'm afraid to, and that doesn't mean I haven't tried. It's just that for us today, the horse is not for me. And that's probably the same for you. Artists have been sketching their environment, things they're interested in, their subjects, for years. In fact, there's more sketches than there are finished works. Artists have been drawing hands because, well, it's always handy. It's always there with them. At least there is one hand with them. These are some hand sketches of the hand by Monet, a famous painter. And he wasn't known for his portraits. Here's another one. These are hand sketches from Van Gogh. And we know what Van Gogh's paintings look like. His technique was to use splotches of paint. But still, he took time to sketch the hand, to learn his subject. So we can find resources on how to draw a subject, in this case the eye. And these are just some Google images that I've found with tutorials and steps. Enough of this. Let's begin. So in this exercise, drawing the eye, our goal is, well, not to learn just the techniques and approaches to drawing the eye, but rather that if we know our subject, in this case the eye, and the ratios, if we know our subject, we can draw that. And of course, you know the secret to drawing a good image. This is probably not the first time we've drawn it. So let's begin. In this drawing of the eye, we're going to use the line drawing tool to create a baseline. I'll choose line drawing tool, I'll make it the smallest size, and since this is not really part of the eye, I'll make it a light gray. I want my line to be, well, kind of at an angle, the right side a little bit higher than the left. The left is going to be the inside of my eye, and we'll leave it there. To make the iris, I'll use the circle drawing tool. Let's use the 5-pixel line, and we'll make it black. To make a perfect circle, I'll hold the Shift key and draw a nice circle there. Now I've drawn it somewhat centered, and I'll put it so it's just about that much below that gray line, and we'll leave it. Now, in following our theme of learning about or knowing about the subject, I want you to know that the visible part of an eye, from the corner to the corner, that distance is about double the width of the iris. And we're going to lay that out on this little line here. And as we draw our eye, hopefully you'll see that. So I'm going to use the line drawing tool again, this light gray, and I'll put some hash marks, some check marks here on this line. So this is somewhat the center, and I am going to do this by eye, pun intended, on the outside edge of each. So I'm watching here where this is, and if I wanted to be critical or perfect, I could just look up at the ruler where the line is. So it's here, and then go down, and I'll draw my hash mark right about there. So this is about half the width of an eye. If I mark another hash mark out here about that same distance, then that's now whole width of the iris, and then this about the same distance, that's another width of the iris. So this is twice as big as this. And I'll add one more, maybe a third again, for the corner of the eye. Okay, so now with my line marks in place, I'll create the upper eyelid. We'll use the curve line tool for that when we use black again. I'll start from this corner of the eye, and my intention is to draw up and kind of cut into the pupil a little bit, and maybe go across down here and go to this outside mark. So you remember, using a line drawing tool, I just draw straight across, and the next click decides the direction that the line leaves this first point. So I'll pull it up somewhere right around there, and then my second click defines the second one, and I don't want it to be centered, so I want it to be shifted just a little bit. Okay, that might be a little bit low, so we'll do it again. Alright, I guess I can adjust it here. That'll work, because I haven't pasted it yet. I like that. That'll work. We'll keep that. So I'll click away. That'll paste it flat. For the lower eyelid, I'm actually going to change color and change the line thickness. The lower eyelid tends to be quite visible. Light will hit it and it's a lot lighter. So this first line is going to go from here to this short mark, and then we'll do a small line here. I'm going to draw this line from here to here, and I'm going to be just a little bit short, and I want it to crease just underneath the pupil. So there, that's on the bottom edge. Now I'll use the line drawing tool again, curve line tool for this part, straight across, and I'll pull it down just a little bit, and I'll favor one side, and then I suppose the paintbrush to finish. Should be the same size, and we'll draw and finish our line there. Okay. Okay, with that done, we don't need our landmarks anymore. I can use the paintbrush and white, maybe make it a larger size, and just paint a line right over the top of these. It's similar to erasing. Now if this were an actual drawing, I would erase right through this black line because I can always put it back. I just don't want any sign of that pencil in my drawing. Did you notice on the right side I've left a little bit of the line? I'm actually going to use that because that crease that's inside there between the eyelids is visible, so I'll keep it there. That's well enough. Take care of this one, and I think we'll be ready for the next step. For our next step, I'm going to use the circle drawing tool again. We're going to put the pupil in. Foreground color is black. Color number 2 is black, and I'm going to turn on solid color for fill. Okay, with that done, pupils need to be perfectly round, and they must be perfectly centered. If not, if you have a pupil that's off to the side, I don't care how you draw, it's going to look like a cartoon character. It's just going to look weird. So pupils are perfectly centered. Question about how big to make it depends on the lighting. If it's a really bright outdoors drawing or picture, the pupil will be small. If it's indoors, low light, it will be quite big. But for us, we want a perfect circle, and we want it perfectly centered. I think we'll make it a little bit smaller, and just to make it certainly perfect, I'll hold the shift key and I'll draw it again. About that big and centered. Okay. Now for the iris. For the background of the iris, I think I'm going to pour in a darker color, and from the palette, it's going to be one of these here. From the palette, we'll find kind of a green-gray. There it is, and we'll make it a lot grayer down here. That seems to be about right. I'll click OK, and with Paint Bucket, I'll just pour that in. I'll need to make it color number 1, and then I'll pour it in. And we're going to cover over most of this. Okay, and paintbrush, we'll use the watercolor paintbrush. That's the bottom one on the left, and I'll start out with this blue-green color. Click OK, and it's a darker version, and the size of paintbrush I'm using is, what do they say, 16 pixel? Now when you draw this, I want you to draw from the inside toward the outside. So I'll draw from right about the center toward the outside, and I'll go right up against the iris and make some short ones, some long ones. We'll be covering up this a lot as well. Texture in the eye from the outside in, and it can go all the way across too, but typically I'll go it from here to the center and from the iris out. When you do the upper part of the iris, just underneath the eyelid, you should tend to favor the darker colors because that part is shadowed by the eyelid. Let's put our pupil back. To do that, we'll go back to the circle drawing tool, color 1 black, color 2 black, and centered. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Now to clean up this outside edge, I can use a paintbrush, or I could simply use the line drawing tool. If I make this outside line white, thicker line, much thicker line, circle drawing tool, and draw a circle with no fill, I can draw a white circle, and let's make it white gray, light gray as we place it. I'm just going to put this circle right around that black line. If I go to the curve line tool, make the thickness the same as it was before, I'll make it black, draw my line from here to here, and just put my upper eyelid back. I think it was somewhere right around here, and then I pulled it across. Just has to be close. Cut it off. There we go. Okay, and if I were to do that same thing with a white line, just outside of that from here to here, pull it up and across, I should be able to trim everything from the outside. So if I were to use the select tool, freeform select, maybe zoom in a little, I should be able to select this space. I'll go all the way around. I'll just click in here. If I select this, I can press delete, and that'll be gone. Okay, back out to normal. And I'm going to touch it up a little bit with some black. The pupil, it can be quite round, but the edge as it goes into it is a little bit broken. It's not a perfectly smooth edge. So we're creating that illusion. Okay. Okay. We're going to do one more thing. We're going to add a window reflection to our eye. To that, I'm using a polygon tool, and I'll make it white outside color, white inside color, solid fill, and I want to make it okay. Let's back out and look at our eye. So in this exercise, we've looked at not necessarily how to draw an eye, but rather knowing your subject as being critical for an artist to be able to draw or paint whatever they're doing. Knowing your subject ahead of time. All of us know what subjects, what they look like when it's right, but we may not and often don't know enough to recreate it ourselves. Now, knowing that the eye, the iris, is half the size of the overall eye, that is, from the inside corner, this corner here, to this corner, and that the eyelid tends to cut across the top, and the lower eyelid has no dark line, and even the eyelashes, how they tend to come in and go out. That helps us better be prepared and define where the eye is.